Welcome back again, Forging friends. We are going to keep on going with this Worlds Collide box. Let's see what today's deck has. Cracking it open, we can see on this side that we have Untamed, Brobnar, and Shadows. It is Rand of Lobo Place with a very hairy, spiky looking Archon on the top there. Well, we got Brobnar in this one, so let's see if we can find a way for it to be good. Usually Brobnar will give us a bit of a lower SAS score in this set, but it's possible that we might be able to find one that that actually works pretty well. It is possible. I believe it's possible. And it might be in this deck. All right, squaring it up, we're going to drop down our Archon card. And we start with Untamed. And right away we see that we have Moorwolf, a 2-power creature with Skirmish, and play ready each other wolf creature. All right, well, when we see this, we'd like to see quite a few to increase the consistency of it. So hopefully we see a decent number. There's a second one. There's a third one. And there's a fourth one. Wow. And 4 of them. Not bad, actually. Not bad. 4 more wolves, I think, will be pretty good. Next, we've got Fogbank, an action card with an Amber Pip. Your opponent cannot use creatures to fight on their next turn. All right. Good to keep our creatures protected. Got 2 of those. Regrowth, action card with an Amber Pip. Play, return a creature from your discard pile to your hand. See if we can find any good high-value recurable creatures. Like this one, Mustik Murmook, a 4-power creature with each player's keys cost +1 Amber, and when you play him, you deal 4 damage to a creature. Could use a regrowth on that if we need to at the very end of the game. We have 2 of those. Nice, to have some damage spreading. We've got the Key Charge, an action card with play. Lose 1 Amber. If you do, you may forge a key at current cost. We have Harmonia, a 2-power creature with elusive. After you play a creature, if there are more enemy creatures than friendly creatures, gain 1 Amber. Want to play her when we're down on creatures for sure. Cauldron Boil, an action card with an Amber Pip. Play, deal damage to each creature equal to the amount of damage on that creature. So this is great when you have some damage spreading, which we do with that those 2 Mustik Murmooks. We can play those down and then do this to double that damage, dealing 8 damage to 2 different creatures. That's pretty good. Going on to Shadows, we have Manchego, a 3-power creature with play. If you have 5 or fewer cards in your deck, steal 2 Amber. Fight Reap, you may shuffle him back into your deck. I think I've said before that I find this card a little bit inconsistent, but I have used him once successfully, so he can come in clutch. We've got Subtle Chain, an action card with an Amber Pip. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Fantastic disruption. Good to get cards out of hands. Hidden Stash, action card with an Amber Pip. Play, archive a card. We've got Fidget, a 2-power creature with elusive. Reap, discard a random card from your opponent's archives or the top card of their deck. If that card is an action, play it as if it were yours. This can be a huge play depending on what you get. You can randomly just get your opponent's best card and just use it. It's a nice one to use when you have the opportunity to. Dusk Runner, this creature gains Reap, steal 1 Amber. Nice Amber stealing. We've got the Chain Gang, in a creature with 3 power, and after you play Subtle Chain, ready Chain Gang. As an action, you can steal 1 and shuffle a Subtle Chain from your discard pile into your deck. Usually good to see this guy in multiples and the Subtle Chain in multiples, but still having 1 of each isn't terrible. We've got Bren the Fanatic, a 3-power creature with Skirmish. Your opponent gains 1 Amber, destroyed, steal 3 Amber. Okay, so we want to make sure we have some good destroying abilities, ideally in Shadows here, so that we can just play him and immediately destroy him. Let's keep a lookout for those. We've got Mug, action card with an Amber Pip. Move 1 Amber from a creature to your pool, deal 2 damage to that creature. So I guess if that Brend had 1 damage on him already, we could use the Mug to finish him off somehow. let's keep an eye out for other things. So we have 2 mugs. Not bad. Pretty good. 3 mugs. Oh, wow. That's a lot of amber on cards so far. Got the J Vinda, a 2-power creature with elusive, and Reap. Deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys the creature, steal 1 amber. So we could deal 1 damage to our Brend with this guy, or we could do 2 damage with the mug, and then deal 1 damage with this guy, steal 3 from the Brend, and 1 more from this guy. That could be a pretty good play. Potentially. We've got the Hawk, an action card with an amber pip. Play, destroy an artifact. If you do, gain 1 amber. Great to have artifact control. Going on to Brobnar. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we got a good Brobnar. Come on, give us a good Brobnar. We've got the War Grumpus, a 3-power creature with Fight Reap, ready and fight with a neighboring giant. All right, let's see some good synergy for that. Got 2 of that. We've got the Rock Hurling Giant. During your turn, each time you discard a Brobnar card from your hand, you may deal 4 damage to a creature. Okay, cool. So on a Brobnar turn, we can just get rid of a lot of cards we don't want to play and just do a lot of board damage. That could be really useful. Oh, we got 2 of him. Wow, that's really great. For a rare, not bad. Got that Grumpus Tamer with the 2 Grumpuses. You can Reap, search your deck and discard pile for a War Grumpus, reveal it and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So that adds more consistency to the deck. You can get things out of your deck this way. If you get him first, thin your deck out a little bit. That's pretty good, actually. I like that. Overrun, an action card with an amber pip. Play, if 3 or more enemy creatures have been destroyed this turn, your opponent loses 2 amber. Oh, we have a fair few number of creatures already, so we can probably make that happen. Let's see what else we have in here, see if we can support that even more. We have the infamous Garganti Scrapper. No one really likes to see this guy in their deck. He's an alpha, so you got to do him first. You have to play this card first. And if you have 3 or more amber, deal 3 damage to an enemy creature. Well, we have 1. Let's hope we don't see any more of this because, you know, with such a high stipulation of having 3 or more amber in your pool, you might think that might happen more often than not. But, usually, for me anyway, this guy shows up right when I don't have 3 or more amber in my pool. So hopefully we don't have multiples. We don't. We have the Flamewake Shaman, a 4-power creature with play, deal 2 damage to a creature. That's some more damage spreading. Great for that Cauldron Boy we had in Untamed. And another creature. That's what you want to see in Brobnar. We got Tremor, an action card with play, stun a creature and each of its neighbors. Great to stun creatures. Great, great, great. Grog is a creature with 5 power, and fight, your opponent loses an amber. Awesome. So far, the worst card we have is that Gargantes, and we have 2 Grogs. And the final card is a Volcano. Deal 4 damage to each creature and gain 2 chains. Okay. Well, I think I've seen worse Brobnar. I think that Brobnar actually had some good synergy within itself and a few other cards outside of it. So let's do the counts, and we'll see what we end up with. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 creatures. As I thought, a large number of creatures. Fantastic. Now let's look at the amber on the cards. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, 12 amber on the cards. The other thing we could probably also include, since we have 4 more wolves, and we can, if we say we have, on average, maybe 2 in our hand at once, we can count that as an extra amber that we could potentially get. So we'll say 12 to 13, depending on whether or not we want to fight or reap with these guys more often. It's kind of a game-dependent thing. So 21 creatures and 12 to 13 amber. Okay, so let's go for our amber control now. What do we have for amber control? I think we have quite a few things. We've got these 2 guys. We got 1, 2, and then we'll count this as 2.5 because it's kind of inconsistent. 3, 4, 5. Well, actually, I don't know if we'll count him as 5. So we'll say 5. So we said that that was, hang on, 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. So we'll say 5. We'll say that that's just another half. So 5 so far. And 6, 7 for these two guys. Nothing else in Brobnar really gives us amber control. Okay, so 7 so far, just in creatures. And then this is 8, stealing. This makes sure opponents lose 2 of 3 more. So we'll say that's 8.5, because the constraints for that are pretty harsh. 8.5. 8.5. Okay, so we have a fair few cards that kind of control our opponent's amber in some way or other. And for expected amber, we had the 21 creatures and the 12 to 13 amber on the cards. And then for the artifact control, I believe we just had the one card, and that was the Hawk in Shadows. This is our only artifact control, so better to have some than none, but we're low on that that aspect, as we see in a lot of decks. So we have that for artifact control. For creature control, I think we're pretty darn good on creature control. Not only do we have a bunch of things that can fight, but we have this. This is not just amber control, it's also creature control. So we get 1, 2, let's see. It deals a damage, so I'll say 3, 4, 5. Not going to count that guy. 6. 6 on the creatures. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, since they control creatures. So 12 cards that control the creatures in some way, either doing damage to them or preventing them from fighting, which is pretty good. And since we have so many cards that spread damage around, I also included that that Cauldron Boil, since we'll be able to probably double some damage. We do also have this one, can't forget that, so we'll say 13, right? 13 for that. So pretty good number of creature control cards. As far as efficiency goes, there's nothing here that directly really affects our efficiency. The only thing that I would say is this volcano right here does decrease our chain. So we do have some negative efficiency there. One thing that I was thinking about was the potential for this Grumpus Tamer to get the War Grumpuses out of our deck, thereby making it one less card we have to draw. So that could increase our efficiency by up to 2 if he survives. But once he's on the board and our Grumpuses aren't out, he's a pretty big target. So I can't really rely on him, so we won't really count him. But we'll keep that in mind. But we do have some negative efficiency here with these 2 chains. Okay, so for recursion, we have the one card that recurs. I mean, the Grumpus Tamer also recurs, the War Grumpus is from the discard pile, but we're not going to count that again. But we do have the Regrowth as the one bit of recursion. And if we're looking at untamed creatures in particular that we want to use Regrowth with, potentially maybe a Werewolf. If we have maybe 3 in our hand and 1 in the discard pile, we can do a big play by getting all 4 on the board at once. More likely a Mustic Murmook to increase our opponent's keys cost and do some spot damage. And out of house, maybe the Chain Gang for another turn. Maybe the Brend if we could figure out a way to use him. More on that in a moment. But I think those are our most high value creatures. The Moorwolves, the Mustic Murmooks, and maybe the Chain Gang and Brend. So that's recursion. And then as far as disruption goes, let's see, what do we have for disruption? So when I say disruption, I mean things that kind of affect areas of our opponent's board, sort of like this. So this discards a card from their hand, or sorry, their archives or the top card of their deck, and we can play it. So that's a bit of disruption. We'll count that as 1. Let's see. Is there another good example of disruption here? I don't think there's another good example of disruption in the creatures here. Everything else is just stealing. So let's look in the actions. Do we have any other good disruptors? So these two kind of disrupt our opponents from fighting. So we'll say we have 3 disruptors in this deck. And a 4th one because we also have this Tremor. So that 4 disruption card's pretty good. Considering we don't have Dis, I would say that's pretty good. And one thing that I was thinking about as well was if we can consistently find a way to destroy this Brend, right? This Brend the Fanatic. And I think I mentioned while we were talking about the deck that we could we have the 3 hit and run cards here, or the 3 mugs, where we can do 2 damage to a creature. And then still within shadows, if we have Javinda out, we can use that to do 1 damage to our Brend to not only steal 4 from Brend's effect, but also steal 1 from Javinda's effect. So that would be pretty good. But off-house, we also have options. We could use our own Rock Hurling Giants to discard a card and just outright destroy Brend, which is really nice. And then also in, let's see, in Untamed, we have these Mustic Mermooks where we can play them and deal 4 damage to a Brend. So this damage is great, not just for spot removal of our opponent's cards, but we can also take care of our own Brend within and out of house. So maybe not the most sure thing, but more than the average deck, I say we could get that Brend the Fanatic's effect to pop off pretty often. So that's exciting. All right, so looking at all these numbers, considering that we do have Brobnar, and I think the SAS system is kind of biased against Worlds Collide Brobnar, but this is a pretty good Brobnar set, I would say. I'm not going to rate this as high as the last deck. I will say I think it's got a lot of potential. It's got not too much amber on the cards, but it makes up for it with the creatures and the versatility of the creatures. Especially these Moorwolves can be used for quite a lot of different things. They have skirmish, they can fight, and there's not really huge incentive for the opponent to take these out right away, right? They're not doing anything that crazy after they're played. So I think overall, this is a tough one. I want to rate this one in the maybe mid to low 60s, I would say. I would say it has a lot of potential and a lot of really good things, but the kind of inconsistent and, for one thing, all of the amber control in this deck is pretty low. A lot of these, like these cards, get rid of 1 amber at a time. The Chain Gang steals 1 amber. Ren does steal 3, but that's our biggest play right there. And then these only increase keys cost by 1. And all the other things we have kind of only dislocate like 1 amber at a time from our opponent. This does 2, but that's also, again, very difficult to pull off. So I would say our amber control is kind of, it's on the weaker side. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So I think that's going to be the thing that holds the deck back quite a bit. No real efficiency, not really any recursion, so that we're not getting many points there. A little bit of disruption, but I don't know if the disruption that I counted would really count towards the SAS score. So I'm going to say a 63. I think for a Brobnar set, for a Brobnar pod, this is a really good one. So I'm going to say a 63 on this one. All right, go ahead and make your guesses, and we'll head to my desktop. All right, welcome back to my desktop. I've got the link copied, and I think I said we are going to call this deck a 63. Yeah, 63 is what I think. I think, again, that Brobnar probably holds it back in the SAS scores, but ultimately I think that Brobnar had some good synergy, so I don't think it really matters from a gameplay perspective, but our goal here is to try to guess the SAS as best as we can. So I'm going to say a 63. Go ahead and make your guesses now. Here we go. Wow, I got it right on the money. Oh man, that feels really good. Wow, okay, so fantastic, a 63. So looking at this, we got 8 synergy, 1 anti-synergy, and 1 meta. Our amber control were all the things that we mentioned. Nothing really taking away amber control, and nothing, see, the Mustic Mermook took away 2 amber because it also increases our own key cost. So that is something to watch as well. We want to make sure we play that when it's not really going to keep us off of a key, of course. But everything else that we thought was going to be great for expected amber is there. You know, the high number of creatures and the versatility, especially with the more wolves, is really good for that. We have 1.5, which is just the hawk for amber for artifact control. For creature control, all the things we mentioned add to the creature control, with the cauldron boil being the worst, since it's very dependent upon there already being a bunch of damage on the board. So that makes a lot of sense. As far as speed goes, the volcano did take away some efficiency, but the hidden stash that was there added a lot of efficiency, so it kind of balanced it out to be positive. That's good. Okay, so our efficiency wasn't as bad as I thought. As far as our effective power on the board, the volcano takes away 5 because it does damage to everything, so we only ever want to activate that whenever we have either no creatures or very high power creatures on the board, and we have a lot of small creatures to take out on the opponent's side. So, but overall, our effective power is pretty strong. Let's see, we have a few things to disrupt. Like I mentioned, the subtle chain is a disruptive card, and the fidget. And yeah, 21 creatures. Very nice, very nice. This key charge, I forgot to mention, we could probably pull it off, actually. We have 4 cards with amber on them, and then if we happen to get there's more wolves out, as well as a lot of these creatures out, we could reap and probably pull that key charge off pretty consistently. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and yeah, this is a really good Brobnar and Untamed kind of combo, because the more wolves can fight and Brobnar wants to fight. So what was it, that card that lets us the overrun? Yeah, so we could probably pull that off too, considering how many we have the War Grumpuses and the Grumpus Tamer. If we happen to destroy 3 creatures, we could make use of that. But and the volcano especially, if we volcano into overrun, that'll definitely. I mean, in a lot of cases, that would definitely work for us. So let's have a look at our synergies. Let's see, Bren the Fanatic has some synergy with the regrowth, since we have something that returns from the discard pile. That's pretty cool. Deals damage to friendly. We have a lot of things that can deal damage to friendly creatures, which is really good synergy with Brend. So he's fantastic. Okay. We have the regrowth, which is really nice. It's got a lot of good creatures to bring back. Talking about another good one. Overrun is supposed to be really good with things that deal damage, and we have a lot of damage spreading again, especially in that Brobnar. It does count the Garganti Scrapper, even though that's pretty inconsistent. But the Overrun, you could also see some pretty good play, so that's pretty exciting. What else is like a big standout synergy? So this is an anti-synergy. We have a high creature count in this deck, so the Harmonia probably won't see much play, but it's still a creature on the board, still a body. Nothing else really standing out. The Moorwolf, we have just the 4 Moorwolves, so they're their own synergy. Garganti Scrapper is an alpha, which is not great, but the key charge, low expected Ember, is holding this key charge back a little bit. Our expected Ember was 19 though, which isn't, not the highest, not the lowest, but I think, we could probably see that key charge work quite a bit if we happen to get the right board. Volcano is minus 170 synergy there, just because we have a lot of 4 or less power creatures. So more often than not, that's going to be a discard. It's a dead card in our hand more often than not. But when it would come in clutch, it will come in clutch, especially with that overrun. Yeah. Okay. So wow, we are getting much better at this, I think. What was your guess? Did you get close? Leave a comment down below about that. And if you can, I'd appreciate you leaving a like. And if you like this content, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a good day. Catch you later. Bye-bye.